Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja, and in this segment we are going to talk about the 1-year regime completion of the Talibs. So on 15th of August, the Taliban celebrated the liberation of Kabul. It becomes imperative that we look at the ground realities of Afghanistan in the current scenario. What has changed? What has worsened, and is there a way forward for Taliban to not be Taliban in the near future? So, as we see, these are the many topics that we are going to glide by step by step. The first, of course, I have already introduced. This is Taliban 2.0 because Taliban 1.0 was in the year 1996 when Taliban had a city which had a very deteriorated infrastructure. And now the organizational structure of the Taliban has re-emerged as a new or reinvigorated, but ideologically they are the same. As we see, this particular picture shows us the key leaders of Taliban. Currently, the leader or the commander of the faithful is Mawlavi Habibullah Akhundzada. After that, we have the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Ministers. So Prime Minister is Mullah Hassan Akhund and deputies are Mawlavi Abdul Salam Hanafi and Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar. And then we have the important ministers. Okay, the problem that is actually denting the organizational structure of Taliban right now is factionalism, because there is a lot of mismanagement with respect to the organizational structure of the Taliban, as in the Haqqani and the other code networks are not seeing eye to eye with each other. So many of the people do believe that the Talibs might not last in the situation that Afghanistan that is in right now, because Afghanistan has seen so many regime changes. Therefore, sure that Talibs do not have the capacity, neither the finances to manage a country of 32 million people, that is Afghanistan. Now, as I talked that we need to know about the brief background of Afghanistan's situation and Taliban. See, outright brutalities like the earlier regime, including public executions, have not been reported as of yet. A dress code has been prescribed for both men and women, but it is not strictly implemented as of yet. They have done something more draconian than this. The most draconian step that they have taken is banning the education of girls beyond class 6 in schools. The girls need to have a religious education only post the class 6. So that is a draconian thing. And they have also made every step possible to create miseries for women in the workspaces. There was a protest in earlier August this year itself, and the protest was education, employment, and bread. And this was dispersed by the guards who fired in the air. So this situation is very grim. Even there are different sections in the park for men and women. They are not supposed to mingle in the public. Now, as we heard the news that general amnesty was given by the Taliban for the earlier regime officials and other people who were in support of US or other foreign countries. They said so. But still, the UN has reported 160 extrajudicial killings along with 178 arbitrary detentions. That means no fairness was there in detention, and the killings were extrajudicial in nature. The trial was not fair and they just killed them. 23 instances of incommunicado detention, 56 instances of torture and ill treatment of former government and military official. They are also tracking those people who have been in favor of the earlier government, and they are killing them. So these are the things that we are witnessing and reading in the newspaper. The regime has scrapped the constitution which was promulgated by the earlier regime, but no constitution from them has been prescribed for the current situation of Afghanistan. So it's actually working without any constitution. There are several minorities like Hazaras and Tajiks. they feel more vulnerable as compared to the majority Pashtun. Okay, so this is the overall scenario. Let's talk about the economy. The economy is in a grim situation. Why? Because in May, the Taliban presented its budget, which was based entirely on domestic revenue, no foreign aid. It said that it projected an expenditure of 231.4 billion Afghani and a revenue of 186.7 billion Afghani. There were no details which were given about spending or how the gap in the revenue would be bridged. Apart from that, most of Afghanistan's revenue, it is now being raised through custom duties. This is said by the Foreign Ministry spokesperson. It also said that it is exporting coal to Pakistan. Exports to many countries, including India, have doubled, according to him. Now, they say that they have opened mines for local investors and they want those investors to invest in them and create job opportunities and employment. Employment is there, but salaries have been cut. The parks and the maintenance of the parks is on the garden department. So things are fine as of now, not very good, not good, but just fine. They are working on subsistence level. Now, until the Taliban banned the high school education for girls, the UN was paying the teachers' salary, and that was keeping Taliban having their head above the water. The salary for community workers and doctors were also going through the UN. The ICRC is financing the Indira Gandhi Children's Hospital in Kabul. Now, because they do not have proper banking facilities, international banking facilities are not there. That is why UN planes have flown in $1 billion in hard cash for the economy to function. But of course, up till when this is going to happen, because this is purely based on the humanitarian basis. Apart from that, some INGOs are even using hawala. They are euphemistically calling these hawalas as money transfer agents. So the economy is in tatters, we can say, because of the lack of connection economically in the through the entire world. Afghanistan is purely working on aid basis, even from the government of India. Apart from that, let's talk about security. The regime claims to have restored peace, but they still remain nervous about IS Khorasan province, Islamic State of Khorasan province, or Daesh, that is an opponent of the Taliban regime, because Taliban usurped the power in Afghanistan. It wasn't given to them, it wasn't handed over to them by the people democratically. That is why another usurpers are sitting to usurp the power from Talibs. Now, according to the UN, from mid-August 2021 to mid-June 2022, 2,106 people were killed or wounded. 700 were killed in violence attributed to or claimed by ISKP. We have made a video for ISKP as well. The killing of Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in a Kabul neighborhood by the US, it has added fuel to the fire with respect to security, because there were a lot of VIPs that were present on the 15th of August, the liberation of Kabul, a day that was celebrated. There it was seen that yes, the Taliban regime is nervous with respect to security. Now, if we talk about the position of women, of course it has deteriorated, which I have already told you about, but this is the detail. Girls are no longer permitted to attend the secondary school. Women are blocked from working in most sectors. If they are working, they have to cover themselves up, and they are under orders to cover themselves. Of course, if they do not do so, what will happen? Their father or closest male relative, they could be imprisoned or fired from the government jobs. And older women and young girls, they are exempted from this decree. This is a decree. So as we see India's interest in Afghanistan, basically, India's policy towards the Taliban regime right now is engage but do not endorse, because Taliban regime has not been recognized by the international world right now. Fraternity does not encourage Talibs right now. So we cannot just shun them off. That is not being realistic. One thing that India needs to keep in mind over here, since the Donald Trump era, India has remained at the background. Many countries, even such as China, along with Pakistan and Russia, were in the direct decision-making process with respect to America's withdrawal from from Afghanistan, giving Taliban the power there. But India remained in the background. India has to understand that Afghanistan is the heart of Asia. Through Afghanistan, we have a route to reach mineral resources which we lack. And in order to keep the relations with these countries, apart from Afghanistan, the other regions through which we have to have a connection for the mineral resources, we need to keep Taliban as a land, because whoever will dictate the land routes of Afghanistan will need to be befriended by India, not endorsed but engaged, because India also has done a lot of investment since 2002 to 2021. $4 billion have been invested by India in Afghanistan in the form of many things, such as we have Zaranj to Delaram road for movement of goods from Afghanistan to Iranian border. We also have transmission lines from Phule Kumri to Kabul, that is the second part from here. Then Salma Dam power project that was also done by India. India also invested in the construction of Parliament building, expansion of National Television Network, reconstructions of Children's Hospital, Indian Medical Mission clinics in Herat, Mazar-e-Sharif and Jalalabad, Kandahar and Kabul. So India has invested a lot. In order to keep those investments safe and to make sure that people-to-people contacts are still in a good formation, we need to keep on engaging with Taliban. India did engage with Taliban in an unofficial mode, but now it has started to do it on a more official level. But you see the current situation with respect to India and Afghanistan. People of Afghanistan might be the only people in South Asia actually who can put their hand on the heart and say and proclaim that they love India. But the question the people of Afghanistan had was, what about visas? What about visa? When will India start giving visas to Afghanis? Because it was very much needed last year, but visa facility was stopped. That was with respect to security of India. And the reopening of the Indian embassy in June gave certain hopes to the people of Afghanistan with respect to consular engagement. But there is no indication from New Delhi yet that when it is going to engage with Taliban on a more official diplomatic level. People-to-people links between the countries and a desire to assist Afghans in a dire humanitarian situation. India is doing so because India has been sending food aid and medicine to the country since December 2021. So these are the certain things, because India has to keep on engaging on historic, geopolitical and also humanitarian basis. Moving ahead, now what is with respect to China? China actually wants to keep the Uyghurs in this border area is where the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang region of China live. They do not want the Uyghur region to be disturbed because of certain elements in Afghanistan. So to keep the Uyghurs, which Chinese government has subjugated, putting them in detention camps, saying that they are providing opportunities to the Uyghurs. This is completely wrong. Many reports have come to the fore because of that, because of these claims. So to keep in check the Uyghur Muslims of China, China wants Afghanistan to remain engaged. China also wants to ensure that it has an access to the Middle East, West Asia region. That is why Afghanistan is important, because there is a power vacuum in Afghanistan right now. Russia is busy in the Ukrainian war. US has already disengaged and pulled out its troops from Afghanistan. There is a power vacuum which China has tapped for its own benefits. See, it's expanding its engagement with the Taliban regime. Apart from that, it has finalized mining operations in Ainak Logar, Afghanistan's largest copper reserve. And this agreement was in the late 2000s, okay, 2008, 2009. After that, there is also a Chinatown advertisement board which was proclaiming that Chinese toys, Chinese goods are being provided in Afghanistan. So China has tapped the market as well. According to a report, 5 big Chinese companies are operating in Afghanistan. So market has been tapped by China purely on the basis of, procuring the market. Now, Indian team meets Taliban in Kabul, a first in new Afghan regime. Why? See, many countries they are in tatters because of the colonial legacy, the civil war in them. Afghanistan was one of those countries. So currently, when we do not and when we cannot move away our head from the Taliban regime, we have to engage with them. So engage but not endorse. Make sure that the Taliban, they revamp themselves ideologically to become more like-minded like the countries of India and the US. Then only India can think of doing something bigger. That means engaging with them on a diplomatic level, recognizing Taliban as a official and legitimate regime. So that could be done only then. Humanitarian and historic grounds compel India to keep on engaging with the Taliban because India has cultural relations with the Afghanistan people. It has historic relations and it also has a border. So that is why. Biggest challenge right now is not Pakistan because Pakistan is already engrossed into the troubles of its own economy. Right now, China is the biggest challenge, which has created another border challenge for China, for India in the LAC. So US, right now, the power dynamics in the Indo-Pacific is of US and India versus China. And of course, Australia is also there. In the other side, we have to deal with countries like China, Russia. Russia is our friend. But right now, the power axis is very contradictory from the perspective of Indian politics, from the perspective of Indians' foreign policy. So that is that. What and how can India engage more with Afghanistan depends on Pakistan's leverage to Taliban. How are these two regimes, the Pakistani regime and the Afghani regime, Taliban regime, are working in tandem? If the soils of Afghanistan are being used against India to launch attacks on the Kashmir region, then that becomes a problem. So we have to see how unraveling it might become. So the question goes like, critically analyze India's policy towards the current Afghanistan regime in 250 words. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay connected.